Here we are once again with the Chef Knives to Go Quick Look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and what we have this time is the Yahiko Sanjo Shidogame or White number 2 Nashiji Gyuto 240mm knife. So we'll unpack all that. So the construction on these is 3 layers, and the hard center core cutting steel is Shidogame or White paper number 2, reactive high carbon steel. Heat treat should be in the 61-62 Rockwell range on that core steel. The cladding on either side of that core steel is a soft iron reactive cladding, so it's an all-reactive blade, both the core and the cladding. This does not have any kind of lacquer finish on it, so it'll start getting a patina right off the bat when you start using it. It does have a kudauchi, or kind of a protective finish on the flats of the blade and a little bit on the spine until you start hitting the grind here. And you can see the grind on these is pretty generous, so the performance is very, very good on these. The weight and dimensions will vary just a little bit from knife to knife. This particular one is 199 grams or 7 ounces. The edge length is 247 millimeters, 9.7 inches. So it's a pretty big blade. It's getting close to getting that 250 range. So it's a decent sized blade. The overall length is about 400 millimeters or 15.7 inches. And then characteristic on these, they're pretty thick out of the handle. This one I measured above the heel, the back of the I should say the chin, the back of the heel is about 4.25, 4.5 millimeters, but then it thins out quickly. And I measured about 2 1/4 halfway down the blade, and then I measured it about 1.5 inches from the end. It was about 1.8, and then you can see as we continue on with the grind, which is pretty generous, it gets pretty darn thin at that very tip. So I've been using the 210 of this, and the tip just flies through stuff, I can tell you. This should be on a par with that, maybe just a touch behind, being a little bit bigger blade, but it's going to be pretty close. And the edge gets nice and thin as well. The grinds on these are very clean, very straight blades. Out of the box edge on the other one and this one, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. It had a pretty solid out of the box edge on it. They will get, it's Shidogame number 2, so it's going to get pretty doggone sharp if you do your part, and you can definitely get it sharper out of the box, but it's definitely workable. The blade height is 51 millimeters, so it's pretty generous, especially with this thin neck. So this is the choil, the back of the blade, and it flows into the neck. And you can see you've got a spot there for your finger where the tang goes into the handle. And so it's a good, comfortable spot for a pinch grip, and lots and lots and lots of clearance for the cutting board, no problem there. The handle is a D-shaped burnt chestnut handle with a buffalo horn ferrule. This lighter color here is where they sanded it down to smooth it out into the ferrule. They've done a very nice job of that. And plus, I think it just looks cool. It gives you kind of a little extra dimension to the tones on the handle. The glue-up job is tight and looks like it's sealed really well. This particular one has some nice figuring on the bottom of the buffalo horn as well. So just a cool looking handle. It's got a bit of texture to it for some grip. Just nice looking handle. It's a light handle, so that's going to bring the balance point forward. And in this particular one, there's your balance point. For me, my pinch grip is going to be back here, so that's going to give you some, it's a light blade, but it's going to give you some mass weight forward kind of balance to it, and so you've got, it feels like you got a bit of a knife in your hand. Regarding D-shaped handles, this is a quote righty oriented. As a lefty, I'm not bothered at all by D-shape, so if you're kind of scared about getting a D-shape if you're a lefty, if you pinch grip like this, I don't even really notice that because it's in between where my grip is going to be, so it doesn't really bother me at all. If you are a racket gripper type, some lefties actually like that because they put their finger right here and they've got like a rest spot to it. Of course, right-handers, it kind of nestles in, and that whole D-shape just kind of nestle in this spot here for you. A pinch grip kind of give you a little bit of an index to it. But again, I would not be scared of D-shaped handles if you're a lefty personally. It's a fairly thin handle. It's about 72 millimeters or 2.8 inches where the two materials meet right here. And it's a fairly long handle, but it kind of goes with the aesthetic of the blade. It's a pretty big blade. Let's get a look at the blade, get our beauty shot. So neat looking blade. You've got hand engraved or chiseled kanji on the right side of the blade. The Nashiji finish is pretty smooth. It doesn't have a lot of quote Nashiji texture to it like you'd see on maybe a Masakage Yuki, for example. But you can see the Kurauchi finish on it, and there's no lacquer or anything on these. It'll start reacting right away. And you can see the generous grind down towards the edge. There's your coarse steel. Here's the left side of the blade. No kanji or anything. So this has a somewhat refined feel to it, yet it's definitely got enough kind of character to it. It's not too refined, so it really looks like a handmade, piece of kitchen art, which it is. The spine is basically open, so the cladding does not cover the spine, so you can see the layers. If you look very carefully at the spine, the layers are there. And it's got a little bit of relief on the corners of the spine. It's got a little bit of work done on the corners of the choil. There's a little bit of leftover kind of residual metal, I think, from the file work here. If I were to keep a knife like this, I'd probably clean that up just a touch, but some people might not even notice it at all. It's a fairly stiff blade, especially towards the front or the back half of the blade. A little bit of flex towards the front, but not that much, so it's got a good, confident feel on the board. The 210 I've been using is just an excellent performer, so this should be in the same general category. The performance is really stellar on the 210. Here is the cutting edge profile. So they give you a pretty good balance of characteristics on the cutting edge profile. You've got a little bit more belly towards the tip, so I can get pretty high on it with a rock. You've got a gradual kind of smoothing out of the belly as you get towards the back, and then there's a little bit of a flattish area towards the back half or third of the blade. So you should be able to chop towards the back a little bit, got some intermediate areas, and then a little bit towards the front for some rocking. So this really should cover a lot of profiles quite well. So, neat package. So it's an all-reactive blade, but if you're looking for something that's easy to sharpen, has really good performance. If you want something fairly large, here's the 240. You can also use the 210, which is an excellent blade as well. It's nice looking, craftsmanship's good, it's got a fair amount of character to it, cool looking handle. This is an excellent package. So, this is the Yahiko Sanjo Shidogami or White No. 2 Nashiji Gyuto 240mm knife.